But let's go back down to Melbourne now and follow up on the good news with the coronavirus infections, the bad news for what's happening with the restrictions there. I'm joined by the Australian Industry Group CEO, Ines Willox. Good to talk to you again, Ines. Is it a good day for Victoria today or a bad day?
I was just going to reflect, Chris, you don't come to politics looking for consistency. You hardly put them in the same sentence.
Absolutely. I'm so naive, aren't I, looking for such things?
Yeah, good luck. Well, look, it is, on one hand, it's a good day that we've had infections that well.
Around 14 is a much better number, no doubt about it. But it's come at an enormous cost. You have huge parts of Victoria, even huge parts of Melbourne now without any active cases. The community is getting very tired. In Melbourne, I walked around on the weekend and, masks are slipping. People are over it. People just want to get back to their lives as best they can. But in the meantime, there is enormous economic damage being wreaked across the economy at the moment. You're seeing businesses close or announce that they're going to close every day. Shopfronts are becoming empty. Businesses are making decisions around downsizing. Businesses are making it very clear that Christmas will be very difficult because of the constraints in Victoria at the moment, not just in Victoria, but nationally because of getting goods and supplies around the country, Victoria being such an important sort of distribution point for the nation. So, on the one hand, yeah, it's good, no doubt about it, but you probably could have got to these numbers in a whole different way, and then you could make the argument, as you see in the hotel quarantine inquiry every day, that we should never have been at this point in the first place. So, so it's a bittersweet day, but there's a long way to go, you feel, and the Victorian Premier doesn't seem much for turning, unfortunately.
There is so much evidence. So many esteemed epidemiologists have looked at the data and said that the infection curve started pushing down under the stage 3 restrictions. So this heavy-handed push, the curfew, the lockdowns, has been over the top. Yet Daniel Andrews doesn't seem to be weakening at all. His message today is stick this out, tough it out. Now, surely the opposite should be his emphasis. That is that every day the restrictions stay on, it's more jobs and businesses that close, and he should be looking to free up gradually with COVID-safe plans in businesses as soon as humanly possible.
Well, this is the frustration for many businesses, Chris, is that businesses have had COVID-safe plans and they've been shut down, they've been forced to close or downsize, and they haven't had cases. And, that's doing enormous economic damage. I was just half an hour ago on the phone to a CEO in Australia who's of European background and he's representing a European company. I won't name him, but he just said his headquarters just gobsmacked at what's going on in Melbourne at the moment, and it's way over the top of what's happening in his country, which is sort of one of the epicentres of COVID. So you've got to question, again, is the economic damage that's been wrought here worth the sacrifice that's been made? And overwhelmingly, businesses saying no, because the tail of this through the economy, through general health, through mental health, through education is going to be a long one, and the recovery is going to take a very long time. So what we've said for a very long time, Chris, is that business needs predictability or certainty and hope. And at the moment, we still don't have that. And the point that business is now looking at and wondering about Victoria is, OK, so we get down to 5 cases or 0 cases. What happens when and if we go back up to 10 or 20 through a spike? Does that mean we all shut down again? And that creates no certainty for investment, for job creation, for looking confidently to the future.
Yeah, I agree. I think I've been talking about this for many, many months, actually. That's the real worry of these lockdowns, because if you get more outbreaks, then presumably that's your solution again, is to lock down again. It's so unsustainable. The other thing that's deeply worrying about what's happening in Victoria is this new legislation, the Emergency Measures Bill, which will actually give more powers to designated officers to arrest people because under the suspicion that they might be about to break the rules. What are your concerns about that?
Well, this is a whole new sort of frontier when it comes to trying to control this virus and maybe beyond the virus, quite frankly. And that's what business people are struggling to understand at the moment, is what does this new legislative proposal mean? They already have to deal in a business sense with police turning up to their offices, with their staff being stopped at roadblocks around, the so-called Ring of Steel around Melbourne. which worries them. Getting supplies through all of that. You saw 15-kilometre bottlenecks last week on the road down to Geelong. All of this impacts on business and business productivity. And now you hear something about, well, a whole bunch of other people, designated authorities or officers have enormous powers. And who are these people? What powers would they have? Under what circumstances would they have? Would they be able to come into workplaces or into homes? All of those are questions. They sort of go to civil liberties and business liberties as well. So those sort of things cause concern. And it's, again, concern about overreach and a lack of consultation that we've seen right through this now, going back weeks and months from the state Labor government in Victoria. That's the real concern of it from business, is about where all this goes next. And it goes back to wanting business to be up and running again and to prepare for the future. It's a small issue perhaps in the business sense, but in the overall sense of confidence about Victoria's future, it doesn't portend well.
Hell of a worry. Just very briefly before I let you go, you've been critical in the past about the lack of consultation between the Andrews government and business. Has that improved as he's looking to ease restrictions in the future?
Well, the President has a line where he says just because you don't get what you ask for doesn't mean that you haven't been listened to. We would argue that there's a long way to go in terms of the consultation and to get better outcomes. And that's all we're after, is better outcomes. We understand, the government's gone down this path, but how do we make it work? And let's just say, Chris, there are still a lot of problems and a lot of uncertainties as we look ahead.
Thanks for joining us again, Innes.
Thanks, Chris.
Innes Willox there with the Australian Industry Group. How would you like to be running a business, a small, medium or large, in Victoria at the moment? And as he mentions, it's the uncertainty. Even if you ease restrictions, do they face the threat of a lockdown like this again under Daniel Andrews? So much uncertainty, so many people's futures being destroyed every day these lockdowns and curfews are in place.